Hello everyone, hope you're all having a wonderful day, and today we're going to be going over my best Motivity build for Liza P. So I did this recently, beat the game, but before I head into New Game Plus, I thought I would share my build that I did use to actually beat the game with you guys. Now if you guys do not know, Motivity is strength in this game, and strength usually equals big unga bunga build, or using the biggest weapons to try and do the most amount of damage possible. Now a bit of a disclaimer, this build is mainly focusing on guarding and also perfect guarding. I do dodge with this build, but mainly we are standing toe to toe with the enemy, tanking as many hits as possible, and then also perfect guarding some moves as well to also get our health back, and also build up stagger or poise damage on the enemy, try and get them groggy quicker, so then we can perform a fatal attack on them and do even more damage. Now why this build is so good, I did just kind of outline a little bit of it there for you guys, but because we are using some of the biggest weapons in the game, we are doing the most amount of damage. We are definitely able to cheese a lot of those tankier, beefier elites that just have like massive health pools, and we're also able to do really respectable damage to bosses, if not some of the best damage to bosses, so we're not obviously sitting in the boss room for too long. We can just get in there, get the job done, and continue on with the game. Now because of some things that we are taking with the P organs, but just the great swords in general have fantastic stagger damage or poise breaking damage on the enemies. What that means is we're able to stagger them when we hit enemies with a charge attack. Sometimes they will get staggered, like they kind of like get knocked back a bit, and then if we continue hitting them with charge attacks, it can take them into groggy state straight away, which would then knock them down for a fatal attack straight away, which is really good, really clean to see. So overall, yes, Motivity is probably going to have some of the best stagger potential in the game. On top of having some of the best stagger, we also have some of the best defense in the game. Obviously, because we're using Great Sword Blade, they have some of the best damage guard reduction in the whole entire game. So when we are guarding, we get the most amount of damage reduction. Now, for instance, on the Live Puppets Axe Blade, the blade that I have been using for the last portion of the game, really carried me through. It has 77.56% damage reduction while we are guarding, which is huge, which this lets us stay toe to toe with the bosses. We can just guard a lot of their attacks without being penalized too much by taking a lot of guard damage. Now this build also has a very good range of diversity to it. There's plenty of weapons you can play around with and try out. You're not just locked into like one kind of weapon or one kind of weapon setup. There is plenty of stuff that you guys can try out. I feel like there actually is a lot of diversity and a lot of options to go for between Motivity, a technique, and even advanced. There are some pretty interesting advanced weapons I would like to try out. And there's also plenty of different amulets that you guys can also play around to fit whatever playstyle fits you best. Alrighty guys, first thing we're going to do is we're going to go over my stats, and then I will go over like weapon handles and weapons that you guys can try for this Motivity build. Now there's nothing too crazy to go over here, but there is just some few things I would like to mention. Obviously I put in a lot of points in Motivity. This is just a pure Motivity build. Remember, I think there is a soft cap, and I think it might be level 50, so just keep that in mind. You don't want to just like keep dumping points in Motivity. You do want to kind of spread around a little bit. The more points you put in there, the more diminishing returns you will get. I did overdo a little bit on Vitality. I don't think I really needed 30 points in Vitality. I would aim for like 28, maybe drop the other 2 points into Vigor. There was some instances that I did notice that because we are using a big weapon, I'm trying to go for a lot of charge attack. Sometimes I would get a little bit greedy and I would leave myself with no stamina or barely any stamina to actually perfect guard or block the next boss or enemy's attack, which would then leave me friggin' wide open. So yeah, maybe take a couple points out of Vitality just to put in Vigor, give yourself some more stamina. But arguably one of the best stats in the game is capacity. One of my biggest negatives to Liza P is that everything weighs so much in this game. You have amulets that weigh more than weapons, which just makes capacity one of the best stats in the game. You really want to dump a lot of points in here so you can wear all your amulets, so you can wear all your big heavy weapons without taking any penalties to yourself. Now, as I did just recently learn, if you do keep yourself below 60% weight limit, you will have better stamina regeneration. So 59% is what you need to aim for, but because you are using big heavy weapons and the way I have this set up, with an amulet that I'm using, if you take that amulet off, I wouldn't have this much of a weight issue. I didn't really notice the stamina regen to be that much of an issue. There is an amulet you can use to give yourself more stamina regen, but yeah, keep in mind that if you do keep it below 60%, you will have better stamina regen. but I've gone through the whole game. I didn't really have that much of an issue with my stamina, and I'm using like the biggest, heaviest weapon you possibly can. Okay, so I might be doing this a little bit back to front, but we are going to go over the handles first, and then we'll go over the blades that you can use for this Motivity build. I am going to go over the handles, and then I'm also going to show you guys the location for these handles, and I will also do the same for the weapon blade. I'll talk about the weapon blade first, and then also show you guys where you can go and get those weapon blades in case you guys have missed them. Now, first up is the Krat Police Baton handle. This is arguably one of the best Motivity scaling handles that you can get really early on, and I'm sure you could probably use this handle all the way through the whole entire game, because any of the blades that you do want to use with this Motivity scaling handle, it's going to make them a hell of a lot quicker. And there's no other like small little handle that just scales off Motivity like this, so that is why the Krat Police Baton handle is one of the best Motivity scaling handles you can get, especially if you want to stay more mobile and be a little bit quicker with your attack. If you guys are looking for the Policeman Baton, you're going to want to head over to the house on the Elysian Boulevard, Stargazer, and then you're going to want to run across the rooftops with the Dimensional Butterfly and go left down a ladder, and then the Krat Policeman will walk through the archway. You fight him and he drops his baton with the handle. Now, next, and arguably probably the best Motivity handle for any great sword, great axe, big heavy unga bunga build that you want to do, has to be the Exploding Pickaxe handle. It is so good. I don't know what it is with this handle, because whenever you put like a big heavy blade like the Live Puppets axe blade on like a different Motivity handle, like the wrench handle or the Majorna one, however you say that, it's still quite slow. It's still quite slow, but then as soon as you put it on the Exploding Pickaxe handle, it is a little bit faster, and you're probably going to see a lot of people that do Motivity builds using the Exploding Pickaxe handle. It's a really solid handle, scales off purely Motivity, has solid friggin' range, especially if you put certain weapon blades on there. You can make this thing reach really far, and it's also really quick. It's probably arguably one of the quickest like long range like Motivity scaling handles in the game. If there is a quicker one that has the same kind of reach, I would like to know about it. If you are looking for the Exploding Pickaxe handle, you do want to go to the Opera House. You want to enter inside, go to the left. You want to run past all of the dick suckers down the corridor. You want to go all the way down the end, up the top to where the big lady puppet is with the big wheel thing on her back, and you'll go inside the room there, and there's a vault there. You'll pull the door off and you'll find the Exploding Pickaxe blade and handle in that vault. Now, a good honorable mention as well is the Coil Majolna handle. I don't know how to say that middle word, however you freaking say it. This is also a good honorable mention because of its Fable Arts that it does have, and that is Absolute Defense. Now, what Absolute Defense does is when you use it, you're going to perfectly block the enemy's attack. This is really good to just fully negate those big red charged up attacks that all the bosses do and all the big elites do, that big red charged up attack that you kind of have to perfect guard or just get the hell out of the way of. When you use Absolute Defense, you can, you just tank it. You ching, you just perfect guard it, and you can just get on with the fight. It's that simple. Now for the weapons, guys. Now this still does come down to personal preference. Like, if there's going to be plenty of weapons here that you guys might not enjoy using and other people do enjoy using, so it all just comes down to personal preference. But I would still like to highlight a lot of the weapons that I use, that I kind of went through the game with, and I had pretty much no issue at all. The bosses are still going to be hard to beat. You're still going to have to learn the moves, yada yada yada. But these weapons deal decent damage, have decent reach, and you're not really caught in a situation where you can't get off a good charge attack because the charge attack sucks, or the normal light attack just sucks because it always misses the enemy. I never had those issues with any of these weapons. I felt like these weapons were just really balanced and worked really, really well. Now, first up, because I did choose strength as my option at the very start of the game when you get to choose your combat style, I did use the Greatsword of Fate Blade. Now, the Greatsword of Fate Blade was fairly decent up until finally get the Booster Glaive Blade. And you get this in Vanini's work, if I remember correctly. It's down where the Puppet of the Future is, where the corruption is. You can go down there first thing, as soon as you get there. You can go down there, just run past the boss, run past the corruption, go to the end of the chest, open it up, and the Booster Glaive Blade will be in there with the handle. But I felt like the Booster Glaive Blade was just a little bit longer than the Fate Blade. That's what she said. I was able to have more reach with this weapon. It just felt a little bit more fluid for like my setup, and I did have this on the Police Baton handle as well. Now, next up we have arguably my favorite blade in the whole entire game for Motivity builds, and that is the Bone Cutting Saw Blade. I did just mention this previously. This carried me through a lot of the game until I got the Live Puppets Axe Blade. I just like the Live Puppets Axe Blade a little bit more because it just had better damage scaling, has way better damage scaling, but the bone cutting saw blade probably has some of the best reach of any weapon in the game, especially if you pair this up with the exploding pickaxe handle. And I just mean like a standstill attack, like not a lunge or anything, because there's plenty of lunge weapons that probably cover more distance, but just in just standing still and how much reach you get with one swing, the bone cutting saw blade paired up with the exploding pickaxe handle is by far one of the best combinations you can do in this game if you are using a Motivity build. Now, on top of having amazing reach, this weapon does have really good damage scaling. You can see I've got a +9 here. It does have 288 damage. That's its raw damage. I think I get about 160 bonus damage or something, especially using exploding pickaxe handle with the Motivity scaling taken from a B to an A. Now, if you guys want the saw blade, it is in the Malum district. Just go straight to that Stargazer, and you kind of want to run to where that plaza area is with the big burning Black Rabbit Brotherhood symbol. You will know the area. It's where you get absolutely ruined by a big carcass enemy with a whole bunch of ranged enemies up on the rooftops. So you want to go up that ladder and you want to navigate your way across the rooftops, and you will find a chest kind of next to a throwing enemy, and that does have the saw blade in that chest. Now, last but not least, and arguably my personal favorite weapon to use in Liza P for Motivity build is the Live Puppets Axe Blade. This thing hits like a friggin' truck, man. It's able to pretty much one-shot most mob enemies, and you're able to put a lot of those big tanky elites to bed very quickly with this weapon, especially if you get them groggy and you're able to get the fatal attack on them. They're done. You do too much damage. This weapon has amazing damage scaling, probably some of the best damage scaling in the game. As you can see here, I do have nearly 350 damage, and I think we have a bonus of 188 damage when we are using the exploding pickaxe handle. That has been my go-to combination pretty much for all the Motivity builds. As soon as I got that exploding pickaxe handle, everything just went on that. It's got to be one of the tankiest weapons in the game with 77.5% damage reduction, which is absurd, which means we can guard even more enemy attacks without having to worry about our health. Going for one hit, health is back. Easy day, easy game. Now, if you are looking to get a hold of the Live Puppets Axe Blade for yourself, it can be found in the Barren Swamp. I think once you get to your first open area, like as soon as you go out the Barren Swamp Stargazer, I think you have to go up the tower, and it's in a chest in one of the towers that are shooting the cannon at you. Highly recommend you guys do try the Live Puppets Axe Blade out. I do think the saw blade is just a little bit better. It is a lot more mobile. Now, I did forget to talk about the Fable Arts on the handles. Obviously, the Karat Police Baton increases your attack of your next hit, which is just that's pretty decent. You can get more damage out. Now, the Fable Arts on the exploding pickaxe handle is really good. It is conserve energy. It allows us to, now, decreases our stamina consumption temporarily. This is just really good because we are using a bit of a heavier weapon and we are trying to utilize a lot of charge attack, which do use a bit of stamina. So this just helps us not use as much stamina, so we can just get more charge attacks off. So if you don't mind being a little bit heavier, with the trade-off being that you have more damage, the Live Puppets Axe Blade is for you. Now, moving on over to my P organ setup, guys. These are all the passives that you do get while playing through Liza P. You get a lot of these quartz, you put them in, you get upgrades, you get stronger. Happy days. Now, the first thing I did get was increased pole cell. This is going to be really strong. We can have more heals, which means we might have a better chance at clutching out and beating the bosses. I went for a bigger staggerable window, which is the groggy meter. So this actually lasts around a lot longer. I noticed it was almost a double increase on the original groggy meter you get. Doesn't last for very long. I felt like once you got this upgrade, that time has doubled. So you have way more time to find an opening to get a charge attack out or a fable attack out to then get the enemy knocked down for a fatal attack. Now, next up, and I cannot stress this enough, I have taken a lot of the guard regain passives because we are using big heavy weapons that have a lot of damage reduction while guarding. I felt like we were guarding a lot more. You want to try and stay toe-to-toe with the bosses. So I did get this guard retain, and there is another one in phase 5 that you can get. So when I was doing a lot of the end bosses, I felt like I could just guard through a lot of their attacks and then figure out how to perfect guard a lot of their attacks so I can, you know, be more offensive. But I felt like you could just guard through a lot of attacks and kind of cheese through a lot of the actual boss mechanic by just guarding and then going for one chop and getting all that health back. Now, another upgrade that is a must-have, even if you're not someone that likes perfect guarding, I would highly recommend taking this one just for those instances that you do perfect guard, that when you perfect guard, you break the enemy stance. Perfect because we are using bigger weapons, that this gives us a massive opening to then go and land a charge attack on the enemy, get them groggy, knock them down in a fatal, and just win the game. Increased special grindstone uses is pretty handy, especially for late game, getting like 2 fire usage, 2 lightning usage, 2 perfect power usage, whatever it may be. Having extra uses on special grindstone is kind of helpful, but it's definitely not needed. I didn't use this as much, but having the extra 2 can probably definitely help you clutch out on a lot of fights that you might be struggling with. So obviously when you're in phase 1, you only get the level 1 unlock, but as you make your way to phase 5, you will get the phase 5 unlock. So I will start with attack and make my way from the top to the bottom, and then I will move over to the other type of upgrades that you can take. So I just enhanced the charge stagger. We are trying to take advantage of waiting for those openings, getting those big charge attacks out. So having our charge do more stagger is fantastic, since we already do a hell of a lot of stagger with our big great axe. We have enhanced our fatal attack, so we do more damage when we do fatal attack. I've also increased the stagger duration, because we're playing off a lot of stagger here, so the bigger that stagger window is, means the more chance we're able to land our big charge attack. I also picked up enhanced perfect guard destruction. This is really good. It allows us to break enemies' weapons a hell of a lot easier. Enhanced weapon attack on discharge, I just took this because I needed to fill up a slot. I gone for more perfect guard destruction. We went with more charge stagger as well. I've also gone for lower weapon durability consumption. This is really good because there's a lot of enemies that put decay on you, which just eat away at your weapon durability. Having something to just mitigate that a little bit is gonna help a lot, because there's nothing worse than when you have to grind because you're worried your weapon's about to break and you have a big elite enemy in your face. More weapon attack when our pulse cells are discharged. This can help you clutch out a little bit more, knowing that we do have a bit more damage when we have no pulse cells. And then for tier 5, I have gone more increased stagger duration and also enhanced stagger attack from behind. First up, we have gone with enhanced guard recovery, so when we attack enemies, we're able to get more of that guard recovery damage back. We've gone with enhanced pulse cell recoveries. We have lower guard retain reduction, so this is when we are guarding, we're not taking as much damage when the enemies are hitting us, we just guard through it. I've gone for more pulse cells. More pulse cells means more heals means we can stay alive longer. Gone for more guard regain reduction. Now over in tier 4, we have an absolute banger. This is the perfect guard regain recovery. And now what this lets us do is, when we are guarding and we're, you're losing a bit of health because you're just guarding, when we perfect guard, we're now able to retain some health off that. So we no longer do you have to sweat bullets trying to hit the enemy to get your health back. You just block, maybe throw a perfect guard in there every now and then, you get your health back. That simple. We also have our pulse cells auto charging when they are discharged. No longer do we have to hit the enemy to recharge our pulse cells. They do it automatically. This is very strong. Well, we also increased our pulse cells further, and we also did that again in phase 5. Now for the ability type, I have gone with lower charge attack stamina consumption, because we are charge attacking all the time. We want it to not be using as much stamina because it's very costly. This is just a filler. I did go for the perfect guard fable charge. This is just when we're perfect guarding, we're able to get our fable charges back. I did also take reduces stamina consumption while dashing. This is just good, so we're not using as much stamina. Lower weapon durability consumption when weight increases. We're taking a hell of a lot of weight, a lot of capacity. This is going to help our weapon stay sharper for longer. I didn't take anything in tier 4. Didn't really interest me. For phase 5, for tier 5, I did go for auto charge legion. This is actually really strong. And then for the last one, we took the extra lower charge attack stamina consumption, again, so we can just get more charge attacks off without wasting our stamina. Now for my amulets, guys, I am taking the blue guardship amulet. This increases max amount of HP, stamina, and legion. Very strong. I do have the conquering amulet. Whenever we do a perfect guard, it allows us to do more damage temporarily. This buff lasts for 5 seconds, so you do have a 5-second window to get a hit off to get that bonus damage. Otherwise you just need a perfect guard again and then re-get the buff. Now if you don't have this one, because this is obviously a boss amulet, and I'm just going to go on the suspicion that everyone's probably just going to want to get the weapons first playthrough. The recharge amulet is really good, able to restore HP continuously. Getting the life amulet +1 is also really good, having more stamina. Iron wall amulet increases physical damage reduction rate. All these are really good options to take if you do not want to use the conquering amulet. I'm taking the carrier's amulet. This is going to increase weight limit. We all know how bad weight limit is in this game. We need a lot of it, so carrier's amulet helps a whole bunch. And then last but not least, we do have the patience amulet, which is just going to increase our stamina recovery speed. This is huge. Very helpful for endgame or later on in the game. Now for the defensive parts, you want to wear the best that you can wear without overcapping on equipment load. Your converter is really up to whatever element of the area you are fighting. If there's a lot of shock, put the shock one on. If there's a lot of fire, put the fire one on. If there's a lot of corrosive and decay, put the decay one on. really that simple. Same goes with the cartridge. The cartridge are all for the special resistances, so that's like disruption, the stuff that can one-shot you, shock and break. So again, just put on whatever cartridge fits whatever area you are going through. And that goes the same thing for the Workshop Union Space Armor Liner. Just put on whatever is going to protect you against the enemies that you are fighting. Now for the grinders I did use through my playthrough, fire and lightning are arguably the two best ones, because fire works for the carcasses, lightning is really strong against the puppet / robots. And then the other one that is pretty decent is the Perfection Grindstone. This basically makes it while you're guarding, you perfect guard every attack. So all you have to do is just hold guard, every attack thrown your way will be perfect guard, and this works for as long as this grindstone is on your actual weapon. So these were the three I used. There's probably a whole bunch of other ones that are really good, like the acid ones are really good for the humans if you are struggling with any of the human NPC bosses. And the one that enhances your guard performance is also probably going to be really good for this build. I haven't actually tried this out, but I can't imagine why it wouldn't if it's just going to reduce even more damage while we're guarding. Now last but not least guys, moving on over to the Legion arm. I basically used the puppet string throughout the whole entirety of my playthrough with a little bit of Aegis. I really like puppet string fully upgraded because it does give you the attack link, which is where you hold down your Legion button when you fire it off, and when you get hooked onto an enemy you fly over to them, fly up in the air and land down with a really heavy charge attack, which pretty much is going to stagger the enemies if you already built up like their poise a little bit. Really good for getting some free damage off and closing the enemy on a lot of the bosses or mobs that try and run away from you. Now the other one I use is Aegis. Aegis is really good, super tanky option. It's going to block pretty much every attack that's not a red attack, and the best thing about Aegis is when the enemy hits your shield, you blast back, which then gives you distance on the enemy and they take a little bit of damage. And that is basically it for this build video guys. Hopefully this video did help you guys out. Hopefully you did also enjoy the video. I've been absolutely having a blast with Lies of P. I think it's one of the best, if not the best Souls-like clone out there, and I think it's even rivals some of FromSoft's work with how much care and love has actually been put into Lies of P. I'm really excited to move on to New Game Plus now. I'm definitely going to be trying a technique build, and then on my New Game Plus run, my third playthrough of the game, I'd probably go for some kind of Motivity technique advanced build, but I definitely will be trying advanced because I know that increases status element, and I want to see how strong you can actually get throwables maybe. Be interesting. But anyway, appreciate all the love and support on the videos as always guys, and until next time guys, stay safe, peace out.